All right, hello and welcome to this video. As you can see from the title, what we're going to be covering today is how to bend reality and achieve anything you want by lying to yourself. So as you can see from the overview, what we're going to be talking about is first the overview itself. The mind is the universe, the have, do, be, trap, the be, do, have, shift, and becoming starts with lies, and finally the review and the action items for the day or the next few days. So with that being said, let's just get started and talk about the mind is the universe. So the starting point of all transformation is this: everything you see, touch, experience, and react to is a direct extension of your own mind, not your brain, your mind. This isn't a philosophy. This is the very mechanism of reality. So the brain is a physical tool. It manages biological functions, recalls memories, regulates movement, and reacts to external stimuli. It's hardware. It processes inputs and executes commands. That's all. It's made of neurons, blood vessels, electrical signals, and chemical messengers. It's powerful, but it's still limited by biology and evolution. It can't create outside of the information it has already been given. And the brain doesn't imagine from nothing. It recombines what's already familiar. It doesn't see into the future. It looks for patterns from the past. And that's why relying on your brain alone keeps you stuck in cycles. Now, your mind is the non-physical field of thought, imagination, attention, and identity. It's the metaphysical space where beliefs are born and from which all reality is projected. The mind is not inside your skull. It is the field around and beyond your body. And so the mind is not constrained by time or space. You can imagine the future. You can access memories that feel real. You can visualize possibilities that haven't happened yet. And your mind is how you connect to God, source, the universe, or whatever else you want to call it. It's not separate. It is the same thing. Your mind isn't observing reality. It's shaping and selecting it moment by moment. So you've been trained to believe that God is separate from you, that the universe is out there somewhere watching and judging. That is the greatest lie ever told. The truth is terrifying to most people. You are it. When people say God, the universe, source, or spirit, they're not wrong. But what they don't realize is that those forces are not separate, external, or higher than them. Those forces are expressions of their own consciousness. The name you give it doesn't matter. Whether you say Allah, Jesus, divine intelligence, or quantum field, you're always pointing at the same thing: the limitless mind, your own mind. The error is praying to it instead of from it. You keep begging for signs and blessings from something that's already inside you, waiting to be activated. And if you look at most religions, that is said in them as well, that God is in us in a way. So when you recognize that your beliefs, emotions, and intentions are the universe's operating commands, you stop asking for miracles and start issuing instructions. You stop pleading and start deciding. Life doesn't show you what's fair. It shows you what you're reflecting. It's not about deserving. It's about projecting. The fastest way to access power is to stop doubting your role in it. Once you stop separating yourself from source, you collapse the illusion of distance and you collapse time. Reality is not a fixed objective place. It's a fluid mirror that reflects whatever you deeply believe to be true. Belief is not some flimsy concept. It's the operating system of your personal universe. What's true for you literally becomes true in your experience. If you believe money is hard to earn, you'll subconsciously block opportunities, reject abundance, and surround yourself with people who reinforce the struggle. The belief creates the experience. Two people can be in the same situation, same economy, same room, same audience, and one will see opportunity while the other sees obstacles. And the difference is not the world, it's what they believe about the world. And truth is never absolute. It's belief plus repetition plus emotional confirmation. That's what makes something feel real, not facts, not evidence, just agreement. And here's the kicker: beliefs are programmable. You can install new ones at will. You can uninstall the ones that no longer serve you. And when you do, your outer reality starts shape-shifting to match the new inner code. So the brain then starts picking up micro signals and patterns it used to ignore because now they match the new internal command. This is why changing your beliefs feels like magic. You start noticing synchronicities, new people, new opportunities, and breakthroughs. But it's not magic. It's you finally getting out of your own way. The ancients didn't have brain scans or psychology degrees, but they knew this truth. That's why the Kybalion says that the all is mind and the universe is mental. That this is the first and most important law of all. This isn't symbolic, it's literal. As above, so below. What you experience in your mind becomes your material reality. Your thoughts are not private, they are generative. They imprint reality like blueprints. So when you walk around thinking life is hard, I never get ahead, or I don't deserve more, you aren't just having thoughts. You're really casting spells, and you're placing orders to the universe. So if you look at your bank account, your relationships, your energy, and your environment, they're not happening to you. They're flowing from you. They are your internal state externalized. They are you, basically. And the second hermetic principle is vibration. Everything moves and nothing rests, and your thoughts vibrate. Your emotions emit frequencies. Every frequency attracts its own kind. Love pulls in more love, fear pulls in more fear, and you don't get what you want, you get what you are. So if you want a different outcome, you don't need a new goal. You need a new vibration. So shift how you feel, and the world responds accordingly. Science confirms what the Hermetics knew all along. Your brain is wired to confirm your beliefs. This is called confirmation bias, one of the most studied phenomena in psychology. You literally filter out any piece of data that doesn't align with your current belief system. And your brain's job is not to show you what's true, it's to show you what's consistent with what you already believe. So if you believe you're not charismatic, you'll ignore every smile, every compliment, every social success. You'll only see the one person who looked away, and that becomes proof. Then you say, see, I knew I wasn't good at this, but it's not truth. It's a belief being reinforced by selective perception. And the mind works like a thermostat. It's always trying to return to the temperature or belief system you've set. If something good happens that exceeds your self-image, you'll sabotage it to stay congruent. But if you reprogram the belief, everything changes. The thermostat gets set higher, and the brain works to bring your external results up to meet it. So the self-fulfilling prophecy is not just an idea, it's a psychological law as well. So when you expect something to happen, you unconsciously act in ways that bring it into existence. You literally become the cause of your own evidence. Every belief sets off a behavioral chain. You believe you're going to fail, so you hold back. You procrastinate, you self-sabotage, or project insecurity. Then what happens? Well, you fail. Not because failure was inevitable, but because your actions were aligned with it. So you believe you're not good enough, so you don't ask for the opportunities. Someone else does. They get it. You then tell yourself you were right. But the only thing you were right about was how you chose to behave. This is how beliefs turn into prophecy. You act like they're true, so others respond accordingly. Then you point to the response as proof that your belief was correct. But it never was. It was just well executed. And the same mechanism works in your favor when used consciously. So if you expect greatness, move like greatness, talk like greatness, and you can watch how the world starts treating you like greatness. You show up confidently, you take up space, you speak with clarity, people respond, opportunities appear, coincidences, quote unquote, happen. It feels magical, but it's actually mechanical. So you're not waiting for signs, you're triggering them. You become the reason that things shift, and that's when your belief turns into fact. So the Pygmalion effect is another principle that proves that others' expectations of you have real measurable influence on your performance. If people believe you're capable, you become more capable. If they expect you to fail, well, then you unconsciously fulfill that too. In Rosenthal and Jacobson's study, teachers were told that randomly selected students were academic bloomers. Over time, those students showed higher IQ gains solely because the teachers treated them differently. The expectations became reality. The teacher smiled more, challenged them more, gave them more feedback, and showed more warmth without even realizing it. The belief changed behavior. The behavior changed the results. Nothing was forced, it was all unconscious, and that's the point. Expectations are contagious and people conform to the energetic climate they're immersed in. So the real power comes when you turn this effect inward. What if you became the teacher of your own mind? What if you expected greatness from yourself, not conditionally, but unshakably? You'd start speaking to yourself differently, you'd challenge yourself more, you'd tolerate less mediocrity, and slowly, almost invisibly, your identity would rise to match the new standard, not through effort alone, but through expectation that became embodiment. So, another way you could imagine this is through the reticular activating system, or RAS. So your reticular activating system is a bundle of nerves at the base of your brainstem, and its job is to filter reality. It decides what enters your conscious awareness and what gets ignored. And here's the kicker: you program it with your own beliefs. So you take in millions of bits of data every second, but your conscious mind can only process a tiny fraction. The RAS decides what's important. It shows you what to notice, and it blocks out everything else. So when you buy a new car, you start seeing that car everywhere. It didn't suddenly appear more. You just told your RAS it mattered more, so it brought it into your field of awareness. This means you're never seeing reality. You're seeing a filtered simulation based on what your mind has been trained to prioritize. So you train the RAS through repetition, emotion, and attention. Whatever you feed it consistently, thoughts, goals, affirmations, proof, confirmations, it accepts as important and filters your environment accordingly. So if you tell it, I always attract opportunities, and it will start flagging conversations, ads, messages, and ideas that confirm that statement. But if you tell it life is hard, it will actively block out all the evidence that life can be beautiful, easy, or magical. Not because that reality doesn't exist, but because your filter says it's irrelevant. Another way you could see this is through the observer effect in quantum physics, which reveals that the conscious observation changes physical matter. In other words, how you see affects what is. The boundary between imagination and reality isn't just blurry, it may not even exist. So at the subatomic level, particles exist in a state of probability until observed. The act of observation collapses the probability into a definite state. That's science, not mysticism. So you're not passively watching reality unfold. Your attention is collapsing possibilities into form. You're literally selecting what becomes real based on how you perceive it. What you assume is real becomes what you perceive as real. What you perceive as real becomes what you act on. What you act on becomes your experience. So you can no longer pretend to be a victim. You are a participant, a co-author, a variable in the equation of every outcome in your life. You are the observer, the chooser, the focal point. Not a character in the story, but the writer behind the scenes, whether you realize it or not. And that means you don't wait for the world to give you permission to believe. You believe first, you observe a new future, you activate the next timeline by claiming it. So life is not a classroom, it's a mirror room. It doesn't teach you with lectures, it reflects your inner world in every person, event, and outcome. So you're not discovering the truth, you're watching your own truth get played out on repeat. So every time you ask yourself, why is my life the way it is? It's a reflection of who you are. So all the people, all the experiences that are happening and your perspective and perception of them are a reflection of you. The world doesn't speak in language, it speaks in frequency. It doesn't care what you say you want. It listens to who you actually are. It's reading your energy, your assumptions, your emotional baseline. That's what it responds to. So you can say affirmations all day, but if your core identity is still rooted in lack, fear, or doubt, the mirror won't reflect your words. It reflects your frequency. That's why becoming the person comes before getting the outcome. You don't get fit, then believe you're an athlete. You believe you're an athlete and then get fit. The belief comes first. So your life is not showing you what's real. It's showing you what's familiar, what's expected, what's believed. If you want to see something new, you don't need better goals. You need a new identity projecting from the inside. You don't need to fix your life. You need to upgrade the movie projector that's playing it. And that starts by stopping the chase, stop trying to fix the mirror, start shifting the source. which brings us to the biggest trap of all, how you've been taught to get what you want. So let's talk about the have, do, be trap. So you've been hypnotized since birth to follow the formula of have, do, be. It sounds logical. You think if you have the right resources, then you can do the right things and finally be the person you want to become. But this formula is a lie. It creates endless delay. This is the structure of societal conditioning. It teaches you to wait for evidence before allowing identity. You think you need to have money before you can do entrepreneurial things so you can finally be an entrepreneur. You never get started, you never feel ready, you postpone belief in yourself because you haven't earned it yet. You trap your identity behind your circumstances, and your circumstances are shaped by your identity. It's a self-locking cage. On the surface, it makes sense, it sounds responsible, but underneath, it's rooted in fear and scarcity. You're trying to behave your way into a new identity without ever becoming it. You think success will make you confident, that love will make you secure, and that approval will make you powerful. You're always waiting to have enough, waiting to do enough, waiting to finally feel like enough. This model is built on external validation. You outsource your sense of self to what's outside of you. Status, approval, proof, credentials, money, partners, outcomes. You give your power away. If you need to have something before you allow yourself to be something, you've made your identity conditional. That makes you reactive. You wait for likes, you wait for compliments or validation to feel attractive or successful, and you hesitate to take bold action because you don't feel legitimate yet. You cling to outcomes to feel worthy. When you don't get them, you collapse. You don't just lose a result, you lose a piece of your self-worth. So your sense of self becomes fragile. You're only as good as your last win. You lose the ability to feel empowered in the moment because you've tied your worth to future milestones. The have-do-be mindset is a linear operating system. It says you need to follow a straight path in order and climb the ladder of worthiness step by step. But identity doesn't work like that. It locks you into time. You think someday I'll have the money, then I'll do the thing, then I'll finally be the person. Someday never comes. You live in the future chasing a fantasy instead of collapsing it into the now. You're always in the process of trying to become and never actually being. You assume that results cause identity, that having success will cause confidence, but in truth, confidence causes the actions that generate success. The cause effect is reversed. You don't become powerful after people follow you. People follow you because you're already embodying power. Success follows identity, not the other way around. So the have-do-be trap is fueled by effort, struggle, and exhaustion. It assumes you must hustle endlessly to earn the right to be who you want to be, but effort without embodiment is inefficient. You can grind for years and still feel like an imposter because you never actually became the version of you that could receive it. And you hustle, but you still feel behind. You achieve, but you don't feel fulfilled. You earn, but you don't feel worthy. You're constantly chasing something that you won't let yourself have emotionally. The missing piece isn't more doing. It's more being, more identity, more inner certainty that leads to effortless action. When you reverse the formula, the grind ends. When you reverse the formula, the grind ends. Flow replaces force. Identity moves faster than effort. When you become it, you act like it. And then the results start showing up almost like magic. This entire formula is rooted in lack. I don't have it yet, so I can't do it yet, so I can't be it yet. It sounds like humility, but it's actually self-rejection. You start from the premise that you're not enough, that you don't have enough, and need to earn your future identity. That poisons the well. Lack attracts lack. Desperation emits desperation, and the universe mirrors it back. Every time you think, once I have this, I'll feel worthy, you're admitting you're not worthy now, and so the external proof never shows up. You become addicted to the future, you get high on someday, you fantasize about a life you're not aligned with now, and you call it a vision. But real vision doesn't delay embodiment, it demands it now. The highest form of integrity is to act as if your vision is already true, not because you're faking it, but because your belief makes it real. So you try to control life by hoarding resources. You think if you just have enough money, contacts, status, or credentials, then life will finally open up to you. But life doesn't respond to control, it responds to alignment. You collect knowledge, gear, certifications, and tools thinking that they'll make you feel legitimate. You get more degrees in university thinking that they will make you feel more able or whatever, but you still feel like a fraud inside. These things become armor, but armor blocks energy, expression, and magnetism. And the more you try to control, the more you signal that you don't trust yourself yet. People can feel whether you're truly embodied or not. They can tell if you're showing up from overflow or compensation. And authentic energy is irresistible. You can't fake being. You attract based on who you are, not what you have. So the have-do-be trap also keeps you in perpetual motion. You become a slave to achievement, to validation and external results. You run faster, work harder, but never actually arrive. No matter how much you earn, it's never enough. No matter how many clients you serve, it doesn't satisfy. No matter how much approval you receive, you still question yourself. It always moves. You cross the finish line and a new one appears. Eventually you burn out, not just physically, but spiritually. And the only way out is not to do more, it's to become someone else, someone who already owns the thing you're chasing. That's when effort collapses. You stop chasing, you start attracting. You don't run towards the goal, you start operating from the goal. So the real formula is be, do, have, and it changes everything. But to accept that, you must first admit you've been building your whole life on a broken system. It's hard to let go of the grind. You've invested so much in the hustle, but what if the hustle was the distraction? You keep doing more because you've already done so much, but effort doesn't equal alignment. Identity does. You can't afford to keep waiting for permission. It's time to invert the process and start from being. Being first liberates you from performance. And once you flip the formula, everything else starts bending to match you. So how do you flip the formula? How do you become before you have? It starts by understanding the better path, which is the be, do, have paradigm that changes your entire relationship with reality. So let's talk about the be to have shift. So the truth is simple, radical, and threatening to everything you've been taught. You don't need to have anything to start. You need to become someone new, and the rest follows after that. This is the be, do, have model, and it's how reality actually works. So instead of waiting for money to start the business, you become the entrepreneur now. Instead of waiting for love to feel lovable, you become the person who lives from love now. You stop waiting for conditions, you start creating them from identity. When you choose to be first, you shift out of reaction into command. And once you're being it, the doing becomes natural. You take the actions someone like you would take. You make aligned moves. That's when results come. They're not forced, they're attracted. What once felt impossible becomes automatic, and it feels like coincidence, but it's just congruence. So the only thing that ever changes your life is a change in who you are, not what you do, not what you have, but what you believe yourself to be. Identity is the source code, is the root level operating system. Everything else, habits, outcomes, environments, flows downstream from it. You will never behave in ways that violate your self-image for long. So if you want lasting change, don't chase behavior, rebuild your identity. Identity holds your permission. Who you think you are determines what you allow yourself to feel, do, and receive. A millionaire identity can hold more abundance than a hustler identity. A leader identity can hold more impact than a follower identity. As you expand identity, you expand your capacity, and reality responds to match. The be, do, have model is cause first thinking. It puts you back at the center of your life. Instead of reacting to what happens, you cause what happens by who you choose to be. So when you ask, what would the version of me who already has this be like? You gain access to a whole new path. You don't need external proof. You just generate internal evidence. You don't chase goals. You generate them from who you've become. Action flows naturally from being, so you don't have to force motivation. You simply do what someone like you would do. It feels lighter, smoother, more congruent, and you don't burn out, you build. When you become the version of yourself who already has the thing, you attract it. You don't chase, you don't force, you draw it in. Identity has a frequency, and when you tune into the frequency of your desire, You start vibrating in alignment with it. That's what magnetizes outcomes. People start noticing you, opportunities seem to come from nowhere. You become visible to the things you used to miss. The more you try to force, the more resistance you create. But when you are, things come to you without a struggle because you just are them. You just are that thing that attracts those things. Think about the times you've been on. You didn't try, you just were. Be, do, have taps you into that permanently. Actions taken from your current identity feel forced, but actions taken from your future identity feel natural. That's the real cheat code. When your behavior lines up with who you're becoming, there's no resistance. There's no inner conflict. You're not pretending, you're actually expressing. You're not acting like a leader, you are one. So you speak differently and you move differently. It's not fake it till you make it, it's become it till it's obvious. The more congruent your identity and actions are, the faster results show up. Life starts compounding in your favor. So you collapse time. What used to take years can now show up in weeks. The universe responds to identity with speed and scale. Be, do, have frees you from waiting for external permission. You stop asking, am I allowed to be this yet? And start deciding, I already am. You no longer depend on accolades, titles, or credentials to feel legitimate. You know you're real because you said so. And that's all that matters. You saying so. This makes you immune to criticism and rejection. You're not faking confidence, you're claiming it. When you choose to be first, you move from victimhood to leadership, from waiting to commanding, and from reacting to directing. No one gives it to you, you take it. And because you own it, you hold the power to transform anything. This model isn't just motivational, it's metaphysical. It's the actual mechanism by which reality configures around you. When you choose to be, you shift your timeline. The quantum field responds to assumption. Observation collapses potential. That means every time you choose to be the future you now, you're collapsing a new future into the present. Assumption is the key. When you assume it's already true, it becomes available. You are literally creating new possibilities through your own choices. So the world catches up to your inner state, not the other way around. You don't need to wait for the mirror to change. You change the face that looks into it. Results are delayed reflections. They show you who you were. So change who you are now, and the future updates like software. To truly live, be, do, have, you need to take action before the results exist. That takes conviction. That takes nerve. That takes an inner authority most people are too scared to claim. You'll need to speak boldly before you feel ready. You'll need to act with certainty before it makes sense. Your brain will scream fraud and your ego will panic. That's your old identity dying. Let it burn. The new self doesn't show up because you wait. It shows up because you move. You act as if, not because you're pretending, but because you're aligned with what's coming. That's what bends reality. That's what separates leaders from dreamers. Identity isn't found, it's chosen. You don't wait to discover who you are, you decide who you are, and reality adjusts accordingly. There's a moment where you stop explaining your old story and start living a new one. That moment is the birth of being. It doesn't take years, it just takes a decision. I am this now is the most powerful sentence you'll ever say. You don't dabble in being. You don't try it out. You embody it fully, even when there's no proof. This is where your self-image starts locking into place. And once you're being it, the rest can't help but follow. But here's the catch. You can't do, be, do, have if you don't know how to be. And being is not about faking, it's about believing. So to believe it, you have to lie to yourself first. And that's where the real transformation begins. So becoming starts with lies. If the be, do, have model is the mechanism by which reality bends, then being is the key that unlocks the whole system. But here's where most people get stuck. They don't know how to be what they aren't yet. They think being requires evidence. They think it requires permission, but being doesn't wait for evidence. Being creates evidence. So to be something, you must believe that you already are it. And belief, true, unshakable belief, is not something you wait for. It's something you build layer by layer from the inside out, just like any other belief you've built throughout your life, consciously or unconsciously. You don't first become successful and then believe you're successful. You believe you're successful and then your actions and outcomes rise to meet that belief. The fastest way to collapse time is to stop asking for external confirmation and start living from internal conviction. But here's the truth nobody wants to say. You won't believe it at first. That belief won't feel real because it really isn't for now. It's not a belief yet. It won't feel honest. It will feel like a lie. And that's exactly how it should feel. You don't wait until belief feels authentic. You lie to yourself first, and then you build the truth, one small piece of proof at a time. The journey to real belief begins with a lie that you choose to nurture instead of ignore. So let's be precise about the word lie. A lie is not inherently evil or wrong. A lie is just a statement that lacks sufficient reasons, evidence, proof, consensus, or confirmations to be accepted as truth. So if you just look at some of the scientific discoveries 100 years ago, they would be considered a lie now because right now there is enough proof that they're not true. So, but at the time they were considered true. And that's all it is. It's not immoral. It's just unconfirmed. A lie is something you tell yourself that currently goes against your past programming, your current experience, or your surrounding environment. It feels uncomfortable not because it's wrong, but because it's new. Your nervous system interprets unfamiliar ideas as threats. So when you claim something radically new, like I am a millionaire or I am magnetic, your body may tense, your brain may resist, and your ego may laugh. And that resistance is the byproduct of all the belief systems defending their position. You're not doing anything wrong, you're disrupting an identity loop. And that's exactly how it should feel. Truth and lies are both made of the same stuff: evidence, reasons, and confirmation. The only difference is how much of it you have at the moment for each of those. If something has enough reasons, memories, confirmations, evidence, and repetition behind it, we call it truth. If it doesn't, we call it a lie. That means truth and lies are not moral categories. They're just positions on a sliding scale of belief. Truth is not absolute. It's a consensus of perception reinforced by patterns and repetition. What you call reality is just a dominant narrative that's been validated enough times to be accepted and has enough reasons, evidence, proof, consensus, or confirmations. You believe things are true because you've seen them, heard them, felt them, or thought them enough times. That's basically it. That's the whole mechanism. You didn't always believe you were shy, broke, unworthy, or stuck. You absorbed those stories because they kept showing up, so you decided they must be true. If enough people told you that you were attractive, powerful, and rich, and you let it in for long enough, you'd start believing that too. Truth is not discovered, it's constructed. It's a psychological house built brick by brick out of reasons, evidence, proof, or confirmations. Every time you find a reason something could be true, you add a layer. Every time you accept a moment of alignment, you add a beam. Eventually, your brain stops questioning and starts defending the new truth. That's when it becomes who you are. Becoming works in 3 stages. First, you lie to yourself. Then you believe delusionally. Then you believe realistically. And finally, you just are. That's the staircase of transformation. You can't skip the steps. The lie is where you plant the seed. I am powerful, I am wealthy, I have unlimited energy. It feels false, and that's fine. Say it anyway. The first time you say it, you'll feel resistance. You'll feel like a fraud. That's not a sign to stop. That's the sign that you're beginning. This is the part that everyone avoids. That's why most people stay the same. They won't lie long enough to themselves to find the truth on the other side. And delusional belief is where you act as if the lie were true. So that's step 2. Not because it is yet, but because you've decided it will be. You take aligned actions, you show up differently, you speak with more power, you create from your future. You still don't fully believe, but you're no longer resisting. You're trying the identity on. You're wearing it like a suit that's slightly too big, but you're growing into it fast. Now, step 3 is real belief. And real belief takes hold when you start seeing feedback from your actions. People start responding differently. Results start aligning with that new identity you're building. You start getting wins. You get proof. And the new belief feels natural. You don't have to force it anymore. It's not affirmations. It's just you're normal. Now it's not something you believe. It's something you are. So to speed up this process, you need to actively look for micro evidence, micro proof, micro reasons, and micro confirmations that your new identity might be true. You're not lying blindly. You're stacking proof moment by moment until the scale tips. These are small signs: a compliment, a new idea, a different response from someone, a moment where you felt powerful. This can be the smallest things ever, as long as it is some kind of micro proof or some kind of micro confirmation or reason to believe that what you're becoming is true already. So write them down, journal them, revisit them, even make a list of them, because you're building the case for your new reality like a lawyer. The more attention you give them, the more your RAS will start noticing similar events. Confirmation bias begins working in your favor. The brain doesn't need overwhelming evidence to shift identity. It just needs repeated exposure to aligned signals. Keep repeating the lie and rewarding the evidence. Over time, your subconscious adopts it as truth, as with everything else you believe. Eventually, it becomes harder to believe the old story than the new one, and that's when the quantum shift locks in. So, the greatest achievers of all time didn't wait for permission to believe. They bent reality by convincing themselves and everyone else before it made any sense. So, for example, Steve Jobs was notorious for this. His team called it the reality distortion field. He would insist on impossible things, ridiculous timelines, unrealistic goals, but somehow those things kept happening because belief bent the rules. Jobs would tell designers they could finish something in 2 weeks that should have taken 6 months, not because it was logical, but because his unwavering conviction warped logic itself until it matched his expectation. People believed him because he believed himself first. That belief became contagious and it turned ideas into iPhones. Muhammad Ali told the world that I am the greatest before he ever became champion. He declared it while still unknown. He said it enough times that the world had no choice but to follow. His identity didn't wait for victory. Victory came after belief. Most people have no conviction in their lives, and whenever they see somebody that is so convinced in themselves and believes so much in themselves, they will gladly follow because they want to have that belief in themselves. But you now know the truth. You now know that you can invent this belief in yourself. You create it out of yourself. Another example is Conor McGregor. He did the same. He talked like a multimillionaire fighter before he had any money. He acted like a champion before he had a belt. He told the world he would knock people out in specific rounds at specific times, and then he did. He believed it so strongly, and he repeated that lie to himself so many times that in the end it did become truth. He became his vision before the world gave him proof. When he was still living off welfare, he said, I see myself with the belt. There is no way that he would have known that. That's the key. He just believed. The belt came after the belief, never before. They all followed the same formula: declare, believe, become. They started with what looked like lies, then the world shifted around them. The belief came before the evidence. The identity came before the success. This isn't just mindset work, it's identity warfare. You're dismantling an old version of self that's been reinforced for years. It won't die quietly. You have to starve it out while feeding the new one. That means cutting off any reasons, evidence, proof, confirmations, attention, energy, and repetition from the old identity. No more venting, no more stories, no more I always narratives that point backward. You stop talking about being broke. You stop bonding over limitation. You stop rehearsing the past. The less oxygen you give it, the faster it dies. You literally have to pay zero attention to it and allow nothing to remind you of that. It's no longer in your reality. So no more laughing about being broke or stuff like that. That means obsessively nurturing the new identity with belief, language, emotion, and behavior. You speak from it, you think from it, you move from it, you talk from it. You replay the future more than you replay the past. The new self becomes the only self you know and the only self you allow. Logic won't make this stick. Identity shifts through emotion, not information. So you need to feel your way into the new version of you. That's what makes it real. When you affirm your new identity, add feeling, add music, add movement, make your nervous system feel the vibration of what it would be like to already be that version of you. A few seconds of deep feeling is more powerful than hours of repetition with no emotional charge. Enter the state first and behavior flows automatically. So create rituals, create triggers and environments that anchor you into the new state of being. a specific song that makes you feel like the future you, a posture that signals power, a phrase or mantra that you repeat. Make them part of your daily life, because identity becomes real through repetition. Identity is easier to shape when you're surrounded by mirrors that reflect it. So your environment is either reinforcing your new self or dragging you back into your old one. Stop sharing your vision with people who are committed to your past. Start spending time with people who see your future as obvious. You don't owe access to people who can't see you. Proximity is power, so be around those who already embody what you're creating. And clean your space, upgrade your wardrobe, remove clutter that belongs to a version of you that you've outgrown. Your environment sends messages to your subconscious all day long, so let every detail of your world reflect the future you. You don't need perfect belief, you just need persistent belief. Every day you repeat the lie and find micro proof and act as if, you get closer to the embodiment. And there's a moment when the scale tips. You don't know when, you just keep going. And suddenly it's real. You feel it, you don't need to convince yourself anymore. It's gradual and then sudden. You can't rush it, but you can guarantee it by not quitting. So once the new identity locks in, the results speed up and they're no longer resisted. You don't ask, will this work? You decide it already has, and you live from that lie. You don't ask, will this work? You decide it already has, and you live from that until life catches up. You walk in the dark long enough for the lights to turn on, and when they do, you'll barely remember it used to be a lie. It will just feel like truth. So you've now seen the entire path from mental loss to the identity trap, from embodiment to belief, from truth to lie to becoming. What comes next is simple. Just live it. Let the old story die. Step into the new one fully. It's already waiting for you to say yes. So with that being said, we went over the overview. We talked about the mind is the universe. We talked about the have, do, be trap. We talked about the be, do, have shift. We talked about becoming starts with lies. We're at the review now. And finally, your actions for the day or the next few days. Choose the identity you want to embody. Don't wait for proof. Don't wait for permission. Pick the version of you that already has everything you desire and decide that it's who you are now. Speak it, act it, think it, even if it feels fake, even if it feels uncomfortable. Rehearse the new self like a script. Then look for the tiniest confirmations that it might be true and build your belief one micro proof at a time. Then finally, B. Stop chasing outcomes and start operating from your future self. Ask, how would I move if this were already real? Then do that. Speak from it, create from it, live from it until the world has no choice but to mirror it back. If you enjoyed this, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next